Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kiriath and this is a follow-up video about Warhammer 40,000 Eternal Crusade. Now I'm doing something today which I very rarely do, which is respond to comments in video form, because I think someone actually made a good point, even if they made a terrible job of making it. And the user was Jeebus Christ, which made me laugh when I read it, in fairness. And whilst I will take issue with the sentence, this is an absolute shit review, because a lot of the complaints I had with the game had nothing to do with what their main complaint about the review was, I'm going to address the things that they had an issue with. So, before we go any further, I'm not changing my opinion on the vast majority of this game. It's still disgraceful. Okay? It's still being marketed just in a shameful manner. It claims to have a persistent world. It doesn't. It claims to have massive PvE and PvP campaigns. It doesn't. It claims to have thousands of iconic weapons and equipment. It doesn't. It claims to be an MMO, and it's not. The sound does still clip. The animations are still not very good. But the combat, as I represented it, was not accurate, and I was not playing properly. And I will apologise for that now, and admit that now, and say that actually you were right to call that out. I will also say that my first experience of the combat was exactly as I described in that video. Now the reason for that is obvious. Now, it wasn't at the time, but it is now. Upon loading the game up today, I saw this screen when I loaded it up. As you can see at the bottom, it says, "Update, we're aware of lag/rubber banding reports, we're monitoring the servers and tuning as needed." Now, when I played yesterday, I suffered constant disconnects. Every game I went into was laggy to the point of being unplayable. When I said an orc killed me by punching me once in the face, okay, that might not be possible, but that's what it looked like, because I ran towards the looter, I hit him, he hit me, and I died. It could have been anything. You even saw in the video itself a howling banshee just jump from one point to another. No intervening animation, it wasn't an ability, they lagged. They rubber banded from one section of where they were to another section. I can't do anything about that, that is not my fault, that is not my problem, that is how the game was presented to me as I played it. And it happened constantly. When I said, for instance, that it looked like a teammate swung 8 feet to the right and killed me, that's exactly what it looked like. That is how it was presented to me, so I'm bound to draw my own conclusions from that, aren't I? By the time I got to recording the video, I was so sick of fighting laggy, warping, rubber banding enemies that I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't use lock-on because the entire time I'd played before that, it didn't work. Because, funnily enough, if you lock on to someone and they suddenly cease to exist in front of you and teleport behind you, lock-on doesn't function that great. It stayed locked on, but it wasn't locked on to anything. I just had the red circle in the centre that says, "You're locked on." Well, that's great, but they just disappeared and then reappeared behind me. What am I supposed to do? That being said, I went back and I have played it again. And when it's not laggy, when it's not just a horrendous, janky clusterfuck of rubber banding and warping all over the goddamn place, the combat isn't bad. It genuinely isn't. It needs polish. The animations are still really rough. They don't really have a lot of weight behind them, and actual impacts on people don't have the kind of... They don't have the kind of visceral feel that I'd expect from a game that... well, a Warhammer 40k game, although I am holding it to the standard of Space Marine, which could well be a mistake, because Eternal Crusade has suffered some considerable difficulties in terms of development and switching publishers and stuff. But that being said, I'm happy to admit that actually, when it comes to the combat side of the game, I was wrong. I shouldn't have shown the combat that I did, I shouldn't have gone into the recording as angry and irritable as I was, and having played it again, with what seems to be now stable servers and actual non-laggy just crappiness, it's actually quite fun. I still think it's not polished, okay? I'm going to say it right now, I don't think it's polished at all. There are still moments that I don't quite understand what's happening, which could well be because I'm not, I haven't played the game for 25 hours or whatever, or 100 hours, or I'm not MLG enough, but there are moments where you seem to get locked into just constant bashing on each other's weapons. Now, whether that's down to not parrying at the right time or you both happen to swing at the same time, could be either of those things, and it feels a little bit off, but the combat is actually not dreadful. It's nowhere near as bad as it was yesterday, and it was that bad yesterday. That's something else I really want to stress. It doesn't matter how good it was today, when I recorded the original video, it was shit. It was beyond shit. It was one of the worst gameplay experiences I've had, and I've played some god-awful games. That being said, it wasn't like that today. So I'll hold my hands up on that. I made an incorrect judgment based on the way the game played at the time, but incorrect it was anyway. As you can see in the background, when it's functioning, you can get some decent kills in, you can have quite a good fight with people. There's a lot going on, yeah, but it's a lot easier to keep track of what's happening when people aren't just jumping all over the fucking place and zipping out of existence before your very eyes. I'd say that I'd prefer it if the executions maybe gave you some sort of, not invincibility frames, but maybe reduced damage a little bit, because I see a lot of people skipping out on executions in favour for just wildly hacking, because it's quicker by the look of it. I mean, the executions are cool, the animations I quite like. Again, I'd like them to have a bit more weight behind them, but I can look past that. I mean, using the, what is it, the Nartheseum? I can never pronounce that. The Apothecary Gauntlet to, like, rag people from the chest up out of the jaw, that is fun, that is enjoyable, but it just takes a little bit too long. And in the time that you're doing it, someone can come over and attack you, and yes, you can dodge out the way and stuff, but I want to see the animation finish, you know? I want to see someone get ripped in half. That's awesome. So, yeah, I will concede, I will apologise, I will admit the gameplay I showed was not sufficient, it was not good, and it shouldn't have been in the video, and for that I apologise. I'm not taking the video down. I don't really believe in hiding your mistakes or trying to pretend that something didn't happen, which is also why I haven't just gone and deleted the comment that caused me to make this video. I could have done that, but I don't like doing that, and if someone does have a point, I'm quite happy to try and address that point as best I can. So, what I'll say, in conclusion, is that it's still not worth 40 quid, okay? I'm not going to revise my opinion on that at all. I don't think it's worth £40. I think it is far too bare bones for you to spend that much money, because all it is at the moment is just, it's basically an arena shooter. That's all it is. You're missing all the things that would make this an exceptional title, and when it's as unpolished as it is, with placeholder text still being there, with, you know, microtransactions for weapons and things, I don't think I can honestly justify spending that much money on something which clearly needs so much more work doing to it. That being said, if you've already got access to it, and you haven't played it for a while, check out the combat, because when it works, it's actually pretty fun. It's not ideal, it's not the best, it's not all that I was hoping for, but it's actually not bad. It is the least bad part of the game, I'll put it that way. Most of the game, I feel, is very shoddy. The combat itself, when it works, which it has today, thankfully, is actually quite enjoyable. So, I think that's pretty much all I'm going to go for with this video. I will actually say as well, which I nearly forgot, that there's a particular comment that I went in with the preconceived notion of having a horrible experience, and that's what I took away from it. That actually could not be further from the truth. If you look at the channel, if you know anything about me, which in fairness you probably don't, you could have come from anywhere and that's fine, I have a massive love for Warhammer 40k. I've been playing 40k for years and years and years. I've played God knows how many 40k video games, including the old ones now, which I absolutely love as well, and I wanted this game to be great. I didn't go in with a preconceived notion of it being awful. I went in hoping and expecting that a game that is costing 40 quid would be a game that is good enough, polished enough, fun enough to warrant its price tag. And it wasn't. And it still isn't. I didn't go in expecting it to be dreadful and hoping that it would be bad so I could just rage and get angry about it. I don't like hating on games. I don't actually enjoy seeing games being bad. I don't enjoy seeing developers fail or not being able to achieve what they want to achieve with their vision. That is not something I take any pleasure from. What I take pleasure from is playing a good game that I've been looking forward to. What I take pleasure from is going in with the expectation of playing something decent and coming away with that expectation fulfilled. I didn't get that with this game. I just didn't. I wanted it to be good, I wanted to really enjoy it, but at the time of playing it, on that day, I didn't enjoy it, because there were so many little issues that just got in the way of that enjoyment. I can't enjoy combat that's laggy. I can't enjoy combat that feels janky and sluggish. I can't enjoy a game where it's advertising things that it's not delivering on. And that's not a fault. That's not an issue with me. You shouldn't be happy with something just because it's got the 40k label on it. I wanted it to be a good game. I wanted it to be an enjoyable game. At the time of recording, it was not enjoyable. Having played it again, now that those issues, for me at least, seem to have been resolved, other people might still be having problems, I don't know. But with those issues seemingly resolved for me, I did actually enjoy the combat. And I'm happy to say that. I am genuinely happy to say that. I want something to be good about this. I want something to like about this game. I don't want it to just be an overpriced, unfinished, unpolished rush release. That is the last thing I want for any game, especially one with the stamp of one of my favourite franchises and IPs of all time on it. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.